Hi Doc and fellow students. My name is Kimberly Rayla and this is about take 21. I'm here to talk to you today about the genetic predisposition in relation to traits in communication. Do genes play a role in how we communicate? The scientists' studies and research answer with a resounding yes. And so we will look more closely at that during this presentation. The socio-psychological tradition, which of course we learned about in Little John and Foss book, looks at two types of theories, which are trait theory and cognitive theory. My focus today is on the trait theory, and a factor in trait theory is the connection of anxiety and apprehension, or it is a part of trait theory. Anxiety at normal levels are okay, even welcome, as they are our body's response to threats, novelty, and frustrations. But at abnormally high levels, this can create communication problems for people in everyday life, such as sweating, nausea, stuttering, and an increased heart rate. Several studies have been done, and of course they've been done with rats. Where would our studies be without our rats? One of the studies took rats that had already been diagnosed as high anxiety, normal anxiety, or low anxiety. They took these rats and they put them in a 3-chamber avoidance test. Because animals and rats use their sense of smell to survive, and if they smell something that is like fox fecal stench, this tells them there could be a fox nearby, and therefore they become or have higher anxiety. So they put fecal stench in one of the chambers to see how the rats would react. And the rats that were high anxiety rats actually chose to live in the chamber with the fecal stench, therefore creating even higher anxiety. The other rats chose to live in the fecal-free chamber. So the rats were then more stressed out and filled with more anxiety than the other rats. So why did they choose the chamber with the stench? And the researchers feel it is directly related to the fact that they were high anxiety rats, and that somehow this is linked to a genetic predisposition connected to anxiety. Other studies conducted on aggression and antisocial behavior, also connected to communication, have not only shown a genetic link, but have also been able to show through neuroimaging that specific cortical areas of the brain are either structurally or functionally impaired. Another group of studies, which focused on communication fluency and stuttering, studied 10,500 sets of twins at the age of 5. The studies involved data gathered on all the maternal reports. The results showed that there was a genetic component involved. 42% showed heritable for stuttering, and 45% showed heritable for non-fluency. So a connection indeed with genetics. Studies done by Crespi and Hurd focused partly on a syndrome, a particular syndrome called Williams syndrome. These are two pictures of children who have this syndrome. They have a special look. They have an elfin-type face, small, tiny teeth. And one of the traits that these Williams syndrome people one of the traits is that they are very, very expressive, that they have low social anxiety. They love to talk, they love to meet people. And so in this case, it is the genes that cause the Williams syndrome also created an expressive, joyful, sociable person. So this was connected. There was a deletion of about 26 genes from the long arm of chromosome 7. So the genes here played the most important role in this syndrome, and maybe the only role. And as I said, this syndrome is associated with people who love to talk and are very expressive, who are very communicative. Several other studies done in the last decade have shown other disorders associated with communication, which include autism, galactosemia, clefting, and Fragile X syndrome. The genes that are associated with these disorders are FOXP2, language and speech disorders, GNP-TAB, associated and linked to stuttering, DYX2, which is found on chromosome 6, linked to dyslexia, and DYX1, 2, 5, and 8, all associated with speech sound disorders. So what is the future for genetic studies on communication traits? I think they look promising. I think because there's more advanced technology that will be available to the researchers, and there will not be such a reliance on the behavioral studies. So they won't be studying the behavior as much as they will be focused more on genes and the roles that the genes play. How does this fit in with a Christian worldview? How do Christians feel about supporting genetic predisposition to explain or justify behavior? The answer is, in part, they do support the genetic predisposition. In the case of the Williams syndrome, there's no question that this is a genetic issue from birth. There is no choice that could be made in this syndrome. But in regards to alcoholism or crime, there is not support that there's a genetic predisposition for these behaviors. We have a choice, we have willpower as human beings, and we have the strength to overcome these behaviors, these bad behaviors. So in conclusion, genes absolutely do play a role in how we communicate. The research, new technology, and many studies have proven this. The future will be opening up many new doors for research in this area, focused on genetics more than behavior. And lastly, Christianity partly does support genetic predisposition. That concludes my talk, and I thank you, and I look forward to seeing all of you doing your presentations. Thank you, and have a good evening, wherever you are.